My trip to Kursk was really nice. So right now, my next city will be Tula. And as usual, I'm
Посадка окончена, поезд отправляется. Следующая остановка.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Поезд отправляется.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I am in Tula. This city is famous for its iconic Kremlin, weapons production, gingerbread manufacturing, and the home to the famous Russian writer Leo Tolstoy. I have so many exciting places planned for you today, so stay tuned and let's embark on this journey together. Let's go. After completing my journey through the Kursk region, I returned to Kursk city to continue my travels from there. The most convenient way to reach Tula was by a special train called Lastochka. These trains are comfortable and enjoyable, but they have one downside for people like me. They don't wait for late passengers. And of course, I almost missed the train once again. While I was in a state of shock and confusion, I left my bag containing my camera behind and boarded the train. As a result, I had to shoot the Tula vlog using my phone, so I apologize in advance for the low quality of the video. In just over 3 hours, I arrived in Tula. The city greeted me with cloudy weather and traffic jams on the main streets where I had started my walk. Tula is an ancient Russian city with a historical Kremlin, merchant mansions, an embankment, art spaces, and original museums. The city's aroma is filled with the delightful scent of gingerbread, tea, and the alia of Yasnaya Polyana, the birthplace of Leo Tolstoy. This city has an unusual name. One theory suggests it derives from the Tulitsa River, which flows into the Upu. However, this explanation is being challenged. Another theory proposes a connection to the Latin word Tula, meaning distant. However, this assumption is questionable considering Tula's geographical location. Ultimately, the true origin of the city's name remains unclear. The history of Tula dates back long before its official establishment in the 13th century. According to ancient chronicles, the city was first mentioned in connection with Prince Sviatoslav's campaign against Constantinople in 968. The earliest settlements in the present-day Tula area emerged during the 7th to 8th centuries. These settlements were primarily engaged in handicraft and trade. Tula was officially founded in the 13th century when Prince Dmitry Mikhailovich Pereyaslawski separated it from the Ryazan Principality. He constructed a fortress on the bank of the Tula River and initiated the city's development as a thriving trade and craft center. In the 14th century, Tula became an integral part of the Moscow Principality and continued to flourish as a prominent commercial and industrial hub. Tula craftsmen were renowned for their exceptional skills in weaponry forging, tannery, and other crafts. In the 16th and 17th centuries, Tula was a crucial fortified settlement on the southern outskirts of the Moscow state. By the mid-17th century, it had transformed from a fortress city into a hub of industry and weapons production. Since 1777, Tula has served as a center of Tula province. In 1929, it became part of the Moscow region, and in 1937, it was designated as the center of the newly established Tula region. During the World War II, in October to December 1941, Tula faced a perilous siege by the Nazi troops. Despite the overwhelming odds, the city's residents displayed remarkable courage and resilience, earning its prestigious title of Hero City for its heroic defense. This captivating history of Tula, a charming town with a population of approximately 500,000 people, unfolds before me as I stroll along Lenin Avenue. The city's main street, Lenin Avenue, exudes a sense of stability and continuity, reflecting the enduring legacy of its name. Lenin Avenue, the heart and soul of Tula, has been the focal point of the city's development throughout its rich history. In different eras, it has been home to the most significant state institutions, grand shops, banks, and magnificent private residences. This street has undergone numerous name changes, each reflecting a different era in the country's history. During the 16th and 17th centuries, it was known as Krapivenskaya. This name signified the street's location outside the city along the Bolshaya Krapivenskaya Road, which was the route through which the Crimean Tatar raided Tula. In the 18th century, the street was renamed Kievskaya. It retained this name until 1918, when it became known as Komunarov Street. In 1963, the street was officially renamed Lenin Avenue. As I reached the intersection of Lenin Avenue and Sovetskaya Streets, I was captivated by the breathtaking view of the Tula Kremlin. However, I'll save that for later. Let's focus on the Gostiny Dvor, the merchant's courtyard, whose history can be traced back to 1776. During that year, a stone building began to take shape on the site of the wooden shops. This construction, which spanned 3 decades, significantly transformed the shopping landscape. The Gostiny Dvor, as it was known, was not just a collection of trading shops but also housed warehouses where merchants stored their goods. In 1789, a unique building called Vajnaya emerged in the heart of the courtyard. This structure served as a central hub, featuring a weighing-scale room, a guard's quarters, a dining area, and even a canal. The Gostiny Dvor stood tall in Tula from 1780 to 1929. Initially, it boasted 57 stone and 600 wooden shops. Tragically, a devastating fire in 1834 forced the rebuilding of these shops, this time in stone. In 1929, the old shopping malls finally came to an end. In their place, between 1929 and 1931, a factory kitchen and a catering building was constructed. These structures served as vital facilities for the city's workers, providing them with essential services. In 2012, a modern Gostiny Dvor was opened in Tula, where a shopping and entertainment center was located. In front of Gostiny Dvor, there is a modern building of the presidential administration and a mandatory monument to the leader of all times and peoples, Vladimir Lenin. Just look at the giant Russian flag adorning the square. This place is well groomed. There are beautiful compositions of coniferous trees all around, which look great at any time of the year. Behind the beautiful musical compositions, Tula's most cherished monument lies. I refer to the Tula gingerbread, a sweet symbol that has captivated hearts for nearly 3.5 centuries. Who would have imagined that this delectable treat has a history dating back to 1685? A plaque on the monument proclaims, "For luck, Tula gingerbread." It has been known since 1685. The earliest recorded mention of it appears in a scribe's book from that year. Over the years, the production of Tula gingerbread flourished, with competing dynasties and manufacturers vying for excellence in quality. However, after the revolution, the recipes were lost to time. Nevertheless, in the 1950s, the tradition of crafting Tula gingerbread was revived. One of the most attractive objects of this place is undoubtedly the Assumption Cathedral. Until 1917, it was the main temple of the Assumption Convent. The current building, built in the Russian style, had 2 predecessors. These were also stone temples. The first one of them was built in the 18th century, but both buildings quickly, alternately deteriorated. The architect Evarista Vladislavovich Skavronsky became the author of the cathedral project. He was a Tula architect of a Polish origin and Catholic faith, according to whose project several Orthodox churches were built in the city. After the revolution, the Assumption Convent was abolished. In the 1930s, they tried to blow up the building, But the temple turned out to be so strong that explosives did not take it. After that, it was decided to leave the building, and a branch of the state archive was placed in it. The cathedral building was returned to the Orthodox Church in 2006. At the moment, it is the main temple of the city. The paintings of the temple are exact copies of the works of Viktor Vaznetsov in Kiev's Vladimir Cathedral, made according to legend by his disciples. I really wanted to visit the inside and see the interior of the temple with my own eyes, since its appearance clearly hints that it is magnificent inside. But at the time of my walk, a service was taking place, and I did not want to distract the parishioners. Located next to the Assumption Cathedral, the Transfiguration Church, built in the 1830s by the architect Vasily Fedosiev, stands as an architectural gem. In 1960, it was recognized as a state monument of the 19th century. Later in 1993, it was transferred to the Tula Orthodox Classical Gymnasium. Restoration work was undertaken from 2001 to 2007, and the five-domed Church of the Transfiguration was restored in 2007. Today, the Sunday school classes of the Assumption Cathedral are held in the church's crypt. Crossing the road, I found myself at the foot of the Tula Kremlin. At the Kremlin's entrance, I discovered a museum dedicated to one of the Tula's most iconic symbol, the samovar. Housed in a historic building since 1990, the museum was originally built in the early 20th century in a classical design. If I recall correctly, it once served as a library. The Tula Kremlin, founded in 1507 by Grand Duke Vasily III, was constructed to enhance the safety of Moscow's approaches. The construction, which spanned 13 years, was completed in 1520. Initially consisted entirely of wooden structures known as the ostrog. However, after 7 years, stone construction began, transforming the fortress. The Kremlin's entrance is free, and it remains deserted in the mornings. I entered the Tula Kremlin through the Adoyevsky Gate Tower, one of the 9 towers that make up the iconic fortress. Built in the 17th century under the patronage of Boyar Fyodor Adoyevsky, this tower served as a formidable defensive structure, safeguarding the city from invaders. For centuries, the Adoyevsky Gate Tower stood as an impenetrable fortress, embodying the power and strength of the Tula Kremlin. Beyond its architectural significance, the Adoyevsky Gate Tower holds immense historical value, intertwined with numerous pivotal events and legendary tales associated with Tula's heroic past. It is widespread that in 1607, under the leadership of Ivan Bolotnikov, the uprising of peasants and townspeople against the oppressive rule of Tsar Boris Godunov commenced within these walls. In 1552, the valiant troops of the Crimean Khan Devlet-Giray were vanquished with the Kremlin's protective embrace. At the dawn of the 17th century, Tula transformed into a temporary residence for Leisure Dmitry I, who even proclaimed the city as the new capital of Russia. During wartime, the Tula Kremlin served as a sanctuary for all the city's inhabitants, providing refuge from the ravages of conflict. However, by the end of the 17th century, the fortress's strategic importance began to wane. Repairs and restorations undertaken in the 18th and 20th centuries ensured its preservation. The most extensive reconstruction project took place in the 21st century, restoring the fortress to its original splendor. The Tula Kremlin, though relatively small in size, boasts a collection of intriguing exhibits. One such captivating attraction is the Siege Yards, an open-air museum that comprises a complex of buildings encircled by a protective wall. This ingenious design provided the inhabitants of the city with safe haven during the enemy raids in the 16th and 17th centuries. The siege yards, also recreated in 2020 to commemorate the 500th anniversary of the Tula Kremlin, depicted a diverse population, while direct landowners such as local clergy or nobles rarely resided there. It served as their immediate surroundings. Townspeople or artisans seeking shelter or employment often find themselves there, either hiring themselves or renting plots. Unfortunately, I could only observe the yards from the gates, as it was impossible to enter and explore the buildings. While the empty interiors left me a bit disappointed, I envisioned creating an authentic Middle Ages atmosphere with real-life objects from that era. However, the current state of the site seemed unfinished. Despite this setback, a clear understanding of the fortresses of that time emerged. A walk along the Kremlin wall was also an option, but my experience was marred by unfriendly employees at the ticket office. They refused to assist me, citing employment reasons, preventing me from visiting the camp. Undeterred, I continued to explore the Kremlin territory on my own. The Assumption Cathedral stands as the undisputed centerpiece of this place. Yes, you heard that right. There are indeed two Domitian cathedrals in Tula, and they are conveniently located just a stone throw apart. One is situated outside the Kremlin walls, while the other is right in front of you. Before the construction of the current cathedral, there was another one in its place. This temple stood for only a century before falling into disrepair and being dismantled. On May 7, 1762, the construction of a new temple began. The primary architect behind this magnificent structure was merchant Lenin Ivanovich Kopseltsev, accompanied by his skilled colleagues Safron Sidnev and Andrei Volodymyrov. The Assumption Cathedral was completed by May 8, 1764. 2 years later, 36 craftsmen from Yaroslavl meticulously painted the cathedral interior. The result is a solemn and majestic painting with intricate details and close-ups. The main Tula Cathedral has been visited by royalty numerous times. On January 28, 1826, 7 versts from the city carried the body of Emperor Alexander I in a chariot to Tula. Citizens then took over and carried the coffin into the Assumption Cathedral, where the memorial service lasted all night. On September 20, 1826, Emperor Nicholas I visited the Assumption Cathedral. Emperor Alexander II honored the cathedral with his presence on September 13, 1863. Empress Alexandra Fyodorovna prayed in the church with her daughters Olga and Tatiana on December 4, 1914. On September 28, 1936, in the evening, a sudden fire broke out in the upper floors of the bell tower of the Assumption Cathedral. Despite the efforts of the firefighters from all over the city, their water hoses could not reach the 30 to 40 meters height of the bell tower where the flames were raging. Only in the morning did the firefighters manage to defend the lower tiers of the bell tower. No arsonists were found. The bell tower was dismantled for safety reasons. One of the most significant events in Tula's history over the past decade was the reconstruction of the bell tower of the Assumption Cathedral, which had been dismantled in 1937. On September 21st, 2015, the next anniversary of the Battle of Kulikova Field, a monument of Dmitry Donskoy was unveiled next to the temple. The Assumption Cathedral stands as the main cathedral on the Kremlin grounds, but it's not the only one. Nearby, the Epiphany Cathedral, built between 1855 and 1862, catches the eye. Designed by M.A. Mikhailov, the architect of the Tula Arms Factory, this Russian Byzantine-style cathedral was constructed to provide a warm space for divine services during the cold winter months. In contrast, the Assumption Cathedral lacked heating. Originally built as a monument to the Tula soldiers who lost their lives in the Patriotic War in 1812, the Assumption Cathedral was funded through subscriptions from citizens of all classes. However, in the 1930s, the cathedral's purpose changed. It was repurposed as an era club, then a physical education club, and finally in 1960s, it was decided to house a museum of weapons. After a period of neglect, the reconstruction of the building began in 1972 and continued until 1989. Since then, the Tula Museum of Weapons has been housed in the rebuilt temple building. In 1991, the temple building was designated as a monument of history and culture of regional significance. On March 9, 2023, the Museum of Weapons celebrated the opening of its exhibition and cultural and educational center in the former Epiphany Cathedral building. In my opinion, this is an unusual way to use the temple building, but let's explore what's there. An interesting feature of the Tula Kremlin is the shopping mall. I'm currently walking along it. These are the single-story stone shops built between 1837 and 1841. They consisted of about 50 kiosks stretching under the walls from Adoyevsky to the Watergate. These rows served as a city market, selling mainly meat and fish. In the 1860s, half of the stone rows in the southwestern part of the Kremlin were demolished due to the unsanitary conditions. At the beginning of the 20th century, the surviving trading shops were rebuilt to house the premises of the first Tula power plant. In 2015, the shopping malls underwent restoration. Now, you can buy marshmallows there, attend a gingerbread making masterclass, or purchase postcards featuring Tula sites and souvenirs. This concludes my walk through the Kremlin, which I leave through the Watergate Tower, one of the 8 towers of the Tula Kremlin that leads directly to the Kazan embankment. The Kazan embankment is a fascinating story. Just a few years ago, visiting Tula meant visiting only a few modest places. The Kremlin, the Museum of Weapons, which was also located within the Kremlin grounds, and a few central streets with temples. However, things have changed significantly in recent years. The Kazan embankment was constructed in the heart of Tula, transforming it into a major event and a true decoration of the city center. It has become a popular spot for both Tula residents and visitors, attracting attention and fostering the city's development. Currently, the embankment stretches along the left arm of the Upa River. The river bifurcates, washing the island on which the Tula Arms Factory, founded by Peter the Great, stands. The factory is located on the opposite bank, under the walls of the Tula Kremlin. The Kazan embankment stretches approximately 1 kilometer, offers a diverse array of attractions for both locals and visitors. It boasts benches, canopies, gazebos, kiosks, swings, paths, and children's play areas. Adjacent to the embankment lies the museum quarter, featuring pedestrian metalist streets. This area houses numerous museums, cafes, restaurants, and hotels, including the Tula Kremlin, which we'll explore today. Nearby, the Museum of Weapons and various monuments, sculptures, and churches await our discovery. At night, the embankment comes alive with stunning illumination. For over a century, the Kazan embankment has been part of Tula's landscape. Originally constructed in 1907, it was located on the opposite side of the city, under the walls of the arms factory. Back then, the river was wide and stormy during spring, causing it to rise 10 meters annually and flood the surrounding area. The Upa River was navigated during that era, and even earlier, sturgeons were caught in its waters. However, over time, the river underwent significant changes. Under the pressure of urbanization, industrialization, and agriculture, the Upa River gradually silted up. Overgrown along its entire course, groundwater levels decreased and the river became progressively shallow, reducing its heavy spring flooding. Furthermore, a dam was constructed above the island where the arms factory once stood. The remains of this dam can still be seen today and have had a profound impact on the river's level and width. Under Soviet rule, the arms factory expanded, and the embankment was actually destroyed. The plant installed a fence almost along the river bend. The left bank along the Kremlin walls gradually expanded due to the river's shallowing and eventually became an industrial site with rails laid and overhead cranes installed. There, the unloaded and loaded metal, huge containers with fuel oil and diesel oil were buried, and a dam of industrial waste was created. Can you imagine what the historical center of the city looked like at that time? A creepy, cluttered industrial zone right next to the Kremlin walls. People were found, and the authorities had the willpower to start grandiose construction in 2016. Now, as you walk along this embankment, still lined with low trees, it's hard to imagine the immense amount of work, effort, and money spent on this improvement. Rusty iron was removed, cranes dismantled and deactivated. A huge layer of soil up to 15 meters deep was cut off, containing incredible amounts of debris and harmful substances. All vegetation was removed, and the left arm of the Upa was cleaned thoroughly. On September 8, 2018, 2 years after the construction began, the Kazan embankment in Tula was officially opened to visitors. Following its construction, the inner space of the Tula Kremlin was transformed. Metallistov Street was completely reconstructed, becoming a pedestrian street and a museum quarter. The center of Tula has truly become a tourist destination. The first place to visit now is the Tula Kazan embankment. I moved to the very streets of metal workers, which I have repeatedly mentioned in my narration. If you walk around the Kremlin, you can reach this street directly through the Pyatnitsky Gate Tower. I visited it from the Kazan embankment. The first mention of this street dates back to 1587 to 1589. It has undergone several name changes throughout its history. In the second half of the 16th century, it was known as Pyatnitskaya. At the turn of the 16th to 17th centuries, it became Nikolskaya, named after the Nikolsky Gate of the city. Since the end of the 18th century, the street has reverted to its original name, Pyatnitskaya, derived from the Pyatnitsky Gate Tower of the Kremlin, which was named after the Holy Church of the Holy Great Mater, Paraskeva Pyatnitsa. In 1924, the street received its modern name, Metallistov, in honor of the Union of Metal Workers, the Tula branch of the Moscow Society for Metal Working, which was located in House 5 before the revolution. On the right side of the street, there is a museum reserve dedicated to Kulikov Field. This modern museum space offers interactive excursions, cooking classes, tastings, and opportunities to learn about the way of life and traditions of different eras. Immediately after the museum, the mansion of the renowned Tula gingerbread manufacturer Bilolipitskaya stands. Renovated after restoration, this magnificent building is adorned with stucco, columns, and openwork balconies. On the other side of the street, the Intercession Church stands, a symbol of hope and faith for the local residents. It has witnessed a period of prosperity and decline, wars and suffering, yet it remains a beacon of comfort and resilience. Next to the church, there is a tea-drinking museum where visitors can engage in gingerbread baking and painting activities. In the past, Pyatnitskaya Street was meticulously maintained, boasting a completely paved cobblestone surface. All the houses were constructed from stone, and lanterns adorned the entrances. This street was a hub of activity, featuring a Gostiny Dvor, various shops, barbershops, and a drinking house, several inns, and a temperance society. During the Soviet era, the street underwent gradual changes, unfortunately, with the introduction of motor transport and the replacement of cobblestones with asphalt. In 1962, Metalistov Street became a part of Tula's first trolleybus line. However, in September 2017, the street underwent a significant reconstruction, transforming it into a pedestrian-only area. Many historical buildings were restored and repurposed, with offices of federal museums forming the first museum quarter in Russia. The street ends at Mosin Square, a beautiful square opposite the Tula Arms Factory. The house of merchant Kuchin, now housing the Yasnaya Polyana Cultural Center, stands there. In December 2015, a fire damaged part of the house, leaving it in ruins for years. After a 45 million ruble restoration, little had changed. However, another restoration project yielded a different result. The building, dated back to 1799, now houses exhibition halls, cafes serving Sofia Tolstoy's recipes, and several hotel rooms in the style of a classic noble manor. Continuing my journey, I crossed Sovietskaya Street and found myself at the exit of the underpass. The Vladimir Church greeted me with its beautiful wooden architecture, bell tower, monument with Grand Duke Vladimir, and adjacent park. This architectural ensemble, with its striking landmark statues, is a must-see in Tula. Nearby, the monument of the famous Levsha, or Lefty in English, the hero of Leskov's story about a skilled craftsman who shot a flea, stood tall. Erected in 1989, this monument celebrates the talent of the entire Russian people. Quotes from the great Russian writers adorned its base, and in his right hand, the lefty appears to hold a flea he shot, though it's a bit challenging to see. My path then crossed the Upa River to the Museum of Weapons. Before reaching the museum, I decided to explore the Church of St. Nicholas of Wonder Worker. Before the 1917 revolution, the Nikola Zaretsky Temple in Tula was renowned for its wealth. However, its life was marked by both prosperity and tragedy. The Nikola Zaretsky Church, constructed between 1730 and 1734, replaced the earlier wooden church across the river. The funds for its stone construction were generously provided by Akinfi, the son of the renowned metal worker Nikita Demidov. Soon, the temple became the primary spiritual center for Tula craftsmen, with 4 out of 5 of his parishioners being gunsmiths. Akinfi Demidov was a generous philanthropist who left a lasting legacy. Notably, Nikola Zaretsky stands out among other Tula churches for its 2-story design, which has earned it several names. The lower floor was consecrated in honor of Nicholas the Wonder Worker, while the upper floor was dedicated to the Feast of the Nativity of Christ, giving it the second name, Nativity. During Soviet times, the temple suffered significant damage. Many of its treasures were looted, and the tomb of Demidovs was vandalized. Rumors circulated that the Demidovs had buried their relatives in golden coffins, leading NKVD officers to repeatedly open the tomb in the hope of finding gold and jewelry. In 1934, the Nikola Zaretsky Temple was closed and its building was transferred to Avtodor. Soon, the church and iconostases were dismantled. The wall paintings were whitewashed and destroyed, and most of the historical and artistic treasures were lost. Today, the Nikola Zaretsky Temple is a cultural monument of federal significance. There are almost no old paintings on the walls, and services in the church resumed only in 1999.
Икона местно чтимой святой, блаженной Матроны Себенской. Жила она приблизительно 100 лет назад. 100 лет назад жила праведной жизнью, помогала людям, исцеляла Словом Божиим. И вот в 2018 году эта икона отразила себя на стекле. То есть у нас появился нерукотворный образ. Стекло обычное стекло. Но икона отразила себя на стекле. Пойдем покажу куда. Пойдем. Вот это стекло. Можете прям снять вот так. Это стекло стояло там. Ну, поближе можете прям вот так как-то посмотреть все. Вот все изображение, все детали этой иконы. Так, надо попробовать, чтобы бликов не было. Ага, чтобы бликов не было. Попробовать, может быть, отсюда вот так как-то. Да? Все детали. Купола, надписи, изображения. Все точно отразилось на, вот на этом стекле. Каким образом это получилось, мы не знаем. Ну, нерукотворный образ. Вот так мы это называем. Мы стекло вытащили, вставили отдельно в рамку, подложили черную ткань, бархат для контраста, туда новое стекло вставили. Вот уже 6 лет, как у нас такой вот нерукотворный образ. Вот так. Ладно, всего доброго.
Спасибо. The exterior of the temple leaves much to be desired and clearly needs restoration, but the interior is very beautiful. Take a look for yourself. Well, then I headed to the Museum of Weapons. The museum was founded in 1873 and was located in various places in Tula. Finally, it moved into this modern building shaped like a heroic helmet in 2012. Construction began in 1996, and that's such a long-term plan, but the long wait was worth it. Let's see for ourselves. The arms business originated in Tula many centuries ago, and the fame of local craftsmen spread all over the world. Therefore, it's not surprising that Tula has 2 weapons museums among its main attractions. In the distant 16th century, Tula served as a formidable defender of the southern border of the state. The abundant natural resources in the vicinity and the imperative to prepare for defense catalyzed the development of the arms industry. Initially, it was a group of self-made blacksmiths who, despite the challenges of the 16th century, managed to craft firearms. Over time, technological advancements led to a surge in the number of gunsmiths, and an armory and a blacksmith settlement emerged on the right bank of Tula Upper River. Interestingly, other renowned handicrafts such as samovars also have their roots in Tula. Later, with the financial backing of Dutch merchants, factories for casting cannons and cannonballs as well as for the production of weapons were established near Tula. This influx of foreign expertise led to the training of Tula craftsmen in factory work, resulting in a significant growth in the number of skilled artisans. Notably, the first Russian private factory was found by merchant Demidov, and a few years later, in 1712, Peter the Great established the first state-owned arms factory, which later evolved into a renowned institution. From its humble beginnings as a small blacksmithing industry, the arms business in Tula has grown to encompass the state's significance. Throughout major wars, Tula played a pivotal role in the manufacture of weapons. The rapid pace of weapon development led to the obsolescence of numerous types, resulting in a formation of remarkable collection of museum exhibits. Initially housed in the factory building, the exhibits soon became cramped within its walls. In 1989, the Museum of Weapons was opened on the grounds of the Tula Kremlin, occupying the former Epiphany Cathedral building, affectionately known as the Old Museum of Weapons. In 2012, an ultra-modern new museum was unveiled in Tula, comprising 5 floors that I am currently exploring. A visit to this museum can easily consume 4 hours, allowing a thorough exploration of the extensive exposition and engaging with the interactive elements. The showcases in the new Museum of Weapons are meticulously decorated, instantly revealing the era and even the country we are in. Each exhibit is accompanied by a detailed description on a tablet. This museum is meticulously designed to cater to families. I recommend adults take a tour, as the collection is vast and overwhelming after half an hour of reading descriptions. I alternated between studying storefronts and visiting interactive corners, losing track of time as I explored the floors for over an hour. The museum offers a convenient break, allowing visitors to relax on a couch and watch one of the documentaries. I thoroughly enjoyed seeing how a Russian soldier appeared in different historical eras, and I suggest you join me for a similar experience. Our tour concludes here. On my way to the train, I couldn't resist stopping at the museum store dedicated to Tula gingerbread. Of course, I couldn't leave without indulging in this fragrant delicacy. To all sweet lovers here, I kindly request you to like and subscribe to my channel. I hope you enjoyed my walk today, and I bid you farewell for now, friends. See you soon.